I feel that right now home is in a path, as we are not just Israelis and Palestinians that are just meeting and hanging together. We choose to walk a path together.
I can do what I love to do, what I love to do most, which is play music, and use it as to imagine, dream a new reality, a new culture that is actually a crazy mixture of our two cultures. And we are cooking these two right now.
Put aside all these identities aside and focus only on the humanity. You need to meet the human as the human that you meet in that moment.
We have to show a model of what's possible. That's maybe one part of our mission actually. And the other thing, we have to resist non-violently the system of oppression from the roots.
Creating something new and quote-unquote alternative and quote-unquote edgy, and also remembering something older than the stories we have access to right now.
I really believe a lot in the freedom within.
Welcome, dear friends, old and new, to this very special episode. As we close what has been a deeply challenging and beautiful year, we want to thank you for being part of this community, for all that you are, and all that you are becoming, and all that is possible here. It's precious to be on this journey together, and we are so grateful for each of you that listens, as well as every single one of our guests and our team. You can dive deeper with us in the new year through our membership Presence Collective, Reclaim Your Intuition, and beautiful leadership mentoring, which will all be starting soon. There is more information on all of this if you go to the events calendar at allthatweare.org, as well as more on the space that we're holding over the holiday period for anyone wanting extra support and empowerment during this time. There'll be 3 circles and a daily meeting point of practice that you can do from anywhere in the world and be part of a group as we hold space for each other during this transition. All of our podcasts are rituals. That's the language that we speak here at All That We Are, and the space that I love to invite others into to share within. Here we sit down in a North London living room, in a circle, with a candle in the center, and share in this beautiful ritual together. I am joined by Ripples Collective, a group of Palestinian and Israeli non-violent activists, artists, and heart-led humans working together in connection, strength, and love to embody another possibility. They recently created a performance called Collective Liberation Ritual. This was first shared at Medicine Festival this summer, and then in London the night before we gathered. They now wish to continue developing it and to take it on tour. And there is a crowdfund that you can support if you feel moved to. The performance includes storytelling, dance, and music, and carries the audience through grief into solidarity and empowerment. It is a journey from separation to connection, feeling the collective pains to allow them to reveal a shared vision, away from systems of domination so easily internalized. Together, peace goes hand in hand with liberation, justice with reconciliation, alchemizing with song, word, and movement, an alternative reality for the land and all its people. Ripples Collective is a non-profit organization working with psychedelics to support collective healing and liberation between the river and the sea and beyond. This collective met each other on the astral planes, diving deep into ancestral wounds and flying high into the prophetic hopes. They have glimpsed another approach and are willing to ripple out, bending societal frameworks, holding each other in moments of despair, times of war and separation, connecting, liberating, healing, visioning. We had a film crew in the space as we were recording, and there was quite a lot of shuffling about. And sadly, the main podcast microphone that was passed around the circle as the talking stick got knocked out quite early on when the camera moved position, and we had to piece together the podcast through the backup recordings. So excuse any moments where the sound is not as clear as we would have hoped, and there is background room noise, as well as towards the end, a neighbouring party. It's nothing like having to hear the constant sounds of war, which puts this conversation in perspective. We are grateful that we are able to still share this special evening and all that was expressed with you. And we acknowledge it's not our usual sound quality and invite you to listen beyond and through and join us in this intimate moment. I was joined in the circle by 6 out of the 7 members of Ripples Collective. In the order that you first hear them, we have Rawan Roshni, who is a Palestinian, Balkan, global citizen, Arab woman based in Jordan. She uses her voice as an artivist through her singing and songwriting, her facilitation of brave spaces focusing on her work in the Swana region. Her facilitation over the past decade has ranged from issues such as conflict transformation, collective liberation, feminine leadership, catalyzing community, emotional processing tools, conscious relating, consent, and more. She fuses sound, movement, and intuitive rituals as tools in her work, bringing elements such as group singing, sound work through vocalization, whirling dance, and intentional nature-based practices. She has co-founded multiple interfaith and world music projects, and most recently has been touring her solo trilingual live looping music and poetry performance, Al Toyor, Messages from the Birds, for 2 years across 6 countries and counting. Then we have Leo Roseman, who is a senior lecturer and psychedelics researcher at the University of Exeter. He has previously worked at the Centre for Psychedelic Research, Imperial College London, under the mentorship of Professor Robin Carhart Harris and Professor David Nutt, supporting the foundational work of a re-emerging research field. His interdisciplinary research covers neuroscience, psychology, phenomenology, anthropology, and conflict resolution, using various research methods such as fMRI, qualitative, microphenomenology, ethnographic, and participatory research. Lior has co-developed and teaches the new master's degree, Psychedelics, Mind, Medicine, and Culture. And then we have Haneen Sabah, a peace activist, storyteller, writer, organizer from Gaza, living now in Portugal. She began her writing journey with contributions to We Are Not Numbers and Global Voices, focusing on Palestinian narratives and culture. Since leaving Gaza in 2018, Haneen has dedicated herself to nonviolent resistance, promoting Palestinian heritage through songs, food, and stories, and teaching Arabic. Her work integrates peace building, regenerative living, and the connection between inner healing and collective liberation. And then you will hear from Suleiman Khatib. Suli is a committed advocate for peace in the Middle East and actively participates in various programs aimed at promoting a peaceful resolution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict at local, regional, and international levels. He is a co-founder and former director of Combatants for Peace, a non-profit peacebuilding organization initiated by former Israeli soldiers and Palestinian prisoners, dedicated to non-violent resistance to end the occupation and achieve equality, freedom, and peace for both peoples. Currently, he serves as the Director of International Relations for Combatants for Peace. Suleiman is also the founder and former General Director of the Al-Quds Association for Democracy and Dialogue, and is based in Ramallah. And finally, in the circle, you'll hear from Noam Embar. Noam is a versatile artist and a catalyst for several innovative musical projects. As a singer, composer, and songwriter, his work challenges established norms. He is the founder of the Israeli post-rock band Habilium, the klezmer punk ensemble Oi Division, and the great Gehenna Choir. Noam is also acclaimed for composing music for theatre and film. Additionally, he contributes as a musician to ceremonies for diverse communities, firmly believing in the transformative power of psychedelic work to unite and connect people. Marwan Halabi, who doesn't speak in the circle but sings with Noam at the start and at the end, was with us in this ritual. He is a Palestinian of Druze descent from Mount Carmel, fluent in both Hebrew and Arabic. His music stems from his identity as someone positioned in the middle, someone who identifies with both sides. It's a unique standpoint, being able to embrace such different perspectives simultaneously without being torn apart. From this position, Marwan's music embodies a spirit of connection and unity. And so now you are invited to join us all in this ritual, in this circle, with these beautiful people who have been on a powerful journey together and share with us so generously the music and the ways in which they have been moved through this collective. In this episode, we explore the themes of sacred activism, liberation, and peace in this ritual entitled Embodying Another Possibility, where we speak to the question, how can collective prayer create ripples that transform the world? We truly hope this circle brings forth a feeling of optimism and a collective prayer for freedom, dignity, equality, safety, justice, compassion, solidarity, and peace, rippling out far and beyond. Welcome to All That We Are, with me, your host, Amisha Tala Oak. On this show, we explore the weave between activism, the sacred, creativity, and regeneration, the spaces where our inner and outer worlds dance. From healing trauma to nature connection, to new technologies, to ancient wisdom, it's time for us to move beyond silos and into an integrated way of being. Every one of us has ideas and personal experiences to share that can lead us to a more beautiful future. Despite the challenges we face as a global community or the pressures we meet in our daily lives, when we stop and dare to listen, to ask ourselves the big questions and to share what we are already doing and envisioning, we create the futures of our wildest dreams, and we begin to embody all that we are becoming, and all that is possible. It is such a deep honor and joy to be joined here with 6 of you from the Riffles Collective, and really welcome you all to All That We Are, and to sharing your beauty and your creativity and your beautiful wild hearts with us all today. We're here in London following a beautiful ritual that you held last night, and here to share more with our wider community of the alchemy that you've been creating together. And we're going to start with a song.
We're going to start with the Dur. It's a song by Marwan, who's seated here with us, and it's in Hebrew and Arabic. Like generally, it would guess also the guitar. הלבבות ופזרי על מחוזות החושך סובבי אהבה, סובבי את הלבבות ופזרי על מחוזות החושך עולם שלו, עולם של אור, עולם של אור. יברך את שמך בליל יעלה לבך הירח יזרח בכל כוכב וכוכב יברך את שמך עולם של אור יא דוניה נור עולם של אור תסתכלי עליי מלופף סביב עצמי מסתחררת تعال عندي در מחازات خاشق
As we're sitting here, moved by the music and just the pure power of being in this room, and I feel like I'm here with a family. And then I remember how radical it is that you have come together in this way. It feels here just so like natural and like it's always been. I would love for you to share more around what this journey of coming together into Ripples Collective has been and how it has changed you and what it's asked of you in order to be able to step into this space. Rowan.
Yeah, I want to share for those who are listening and can't see that there are tears in my eyes after the song because it does remind me of the beginning. Well, depends beginning from where, but let's say a clear step in the path that led me into this collective. The first time I heard this song from Marwan, this is a composition by Marwan, by the way, and I would love to tell you what it says also. And to stay with the story, first time I heard this song from Marwan was when we met in the land. I was invited to a gathering that had the intention to bring together Palestinian healers. And it was shortly after my first experience drinking medicine in ceremony. So I was very honored to be invited because I'm of the Palestinian diaspora population. So a lot of my pain comes from feeling of, not just feeling, but fact of displacement and not knowing how to engage with the story on the land and with the people who actually live there. Feeling outside of the story because I'm outside of the land. So that's maybe one of the main pain points for me personally is the separation from the land, the separation from my people, and the generations of us being outside. And so I had been invited to this gathering that was at our friend's house in the West Bank. And I was linked with Marwan just via like messages on WhatsApp of like, oh, this guy can give you a ride. We hadn't met ever before. So I was in Jerusalem waiting outside of this like shopping mall thing. And we very awkwardly found ourselves at the street. He found me. I get in the car. He was coming from Haifa. And then he drove to go to the West Bank. And it was his first time going into the West Bank, even though he's also Palestinian, but he's a citizen of Israel. And so many complications in our layers of identity that create separation. And I remember this moment when we were, crossing with the car and there's the sign of like, enter at your own risk. And it brought up something for the people in the car who had never been to the West Bank. So it was very meaningful for me to be with them in that moment. And then we continued driving to get to our friend's house. And in that circle, I met other people who are here as well. Soli, that was the first time we met. And it also became clear that multiple people in the circle had drank medicine, and I felt really the spirit of the medicine bringing us together. And Marwan played that song. And I've told Marwan recently that like every time I hear it, it takes me back to that living room and to how aligned I felt on that day, that there is a way to engage that is different than any other way I had known before. So I had studied political science in university. I specialized in Near and Middle Eastern civilizations. I wanted to be a journalist. I had been to protests. I had written articles about human rights violations. So I tried those routes. And I felt that there was always something missing, that I wasn't sure how to show up in service. And it was from that living room gathering that then I got to know more and more people that gather in that living room. And it was through that community in that living room that I also was invited into the Spain project. And so, yeah, just now I really felt that living room as we sit here together in this living room vibe. And that opened up for me this merging of activism and spirituality and this sacred activism path that is aligned with who I am and how I am and all I am. And a way forward that really brings also the inner and the outer, that doesn't bypass through spirituality, but also doesn't act from a place of rage. Though rage can be sacred too, by the way, but wanting to honor the sacred in all of us, in every single living thing and living human being. So this is what brings me into this collective, as well as also art, and using art as a elixir of transformation, as a tool for transformation, and love, the love for these humans who are here in this circle, and our courage to stand together against certain things, and also to call in what we want to create. So it's a lot of this balance and this dance.
My name is Lior. I'm a psychedelic researcher from London and a senior lecturer, University of Exeter. So I'm an academic. I'm not a band member. I mean, we're a collective, a band, a performance group, ritual holders. But there's something in my research, my work, that working with groups of Israelis and Palestinians, with medicines and doing peace research, that with the research, and also part of my research that has a strong emphasis on phenomenology of the study of human experience, that constantly pushed me, my disciplinary boundaries. I've been in academia, I was constantly pushed in my disciplinary boundaries from a neuroscientist to study clinical research, but always wanting to dedicate myself to the richness of human experience as well. So starting to write papers and present things in lectures that are more animated in the way that the kind of the level of detail that is in them. But it's not enough. So it's kind of like art for me right now is a way of expression of things that I cannot express through science. So this is kind of for me, there's artistic motivation to move from my academic background and also have space for the artist in me that wants to be expressed. And the peace work, what they do, and the sacred activism, that is as an Israeli living in London and feeling the pain of the land and the pain of the peoples in the land, and knowing I have these like powerful tools I'm working with and researching, and wanting to dedicate this kind of knowledge I have to work to try to improve reality in whatever way I can, even if it's a small thing. But now it feels big suddenly. There's a feeling also after the performance last night that there's a path that is now being opened, that its trajectory is more and more materialized from the kind of ether, visionary, revelatory kind of ideas, and now into bringing it into an audience and seeing the kind of resonance with the audience and feeling that like make it more concrete. Our process, and now to share the process, and it makes it much more alive and very hopeful, at least in this kind of way when we're together. I'm very hopeful. It's a shame that we live so far from each other because now everybody are flying back in 2 days, each one to their own place, and now we need to gather again in a few months to work on continue our creation. But it's like I just want to be now next to you all. Hanin.
I have to say that what brought me to this sacred work is two things. One is really the need to put all that energy from what is happening in the land and what is happening in Gaza into something that is with action, that is putting action into all these different emotions of rage and uncertainty and helplessness, and to put this energy into sacred work of coming together with beautiful humans, and to be really able to dive deeper and to get to know each other on that level of embodying this reality of what it means to be together, we're living together, we're spending so many hours practicing, preparing, and birthing a lot of things and ideas and discussions and processes, and We had two processes. We had one in medicine back in August, and then this time. And after each time, I feel like I'm a different person in a way than the way I came. So it takes a journey somehow, and I appreciate it. And so the other thing is that whatever seed we can put to give voice to that alternative that is existing, it's very important to bring it, because otherwise there's so much polarization and separation and a lot of feeding over the people hating each other, choosing one side and but it's really it doesn't really give voice to these alternative voices that are saying, hey, we are here and we are co-creating and doing things that are not really heard so much in the world right now. Maybe the world doesn't accept it, or maybe but there is no voice for it somehow in the stream media or any of the media that we hear of. And I feel it's very important now to push for that, to bring that. I come from Gaza. I was born and raised there. I lived all my life until I left 6 years ago. And in Gaza, I was focusing a lot on journalism, writing, and I was a writer for We Are Not Numbers. And I was going on the border of Gaza, translating people's voices to stream them to the world and to speak how peaceful people in Gaza are and how much they want to just live. And the siege must end, and how this reality of living under siege have created a lot of confusion about the world and what is really happening out there. It's like you're living in this castle that is closed and you don't know what is happening outside of it. It's an open air prison. So there was always the feeling that we want the freedom, we want to break free from anything that is constricting the mind, the body, the soul. So it was mainly, my work in Gaza was mainly focused around that, voicing for women voices and speaking of Gaza reality and bringing people in Gaza in ways that the world doesn't see, doesn't know, doesn't recognize. Through food also, preserving the recipes and the culture and the heritage. The alternative reality that I imagine is to be able to live. We don't need to love each other in order to be able to be neighbors and to be living next to each other. We can disagree, it's okay, but we can still be. We can be angry with each other, but we can still be. We can fight one another, but we can still be. So how to dance around that dance, like we can coexist, that's the alternative that I see. And I feel that in our performance that we made yesterday, we embodied a different, humbly, I would say again, as it's still evolving and it's still developing, humbly, we brought ourselves and our process and truly embodied the different that can be without really speaking too much words about it.
Yeah, my name is Suleiman Khatib, and I born in Jerusalem. My family, I come from an ancient family in the land, lived in the mountains of Jerusalem. So I'm very connected to the place, to the land. Yeah, and I come from like a long experience of activism, basically. Like some people shared here, I experienced like a lot of strategies in my life, seeking freedom and liberation from violence, armed struggle, hunger strikes, through jail, through work within Palestinian communities, through organizing, through book and writing, through direct action and the demonstrations and nonviolence action in the last maybe 20 years, through dialogue circles of Palestinians and Israelis. So I come from the joint spaces, which is part of creating this alternative to the reality, which hopefully it's not going to be the alternative rather than will be the reality. Yeah, I would just want to maybe just name one of the projects. I'm one of the founders called Combatants for Peace, I mentioned last night, that brought ex-Israeli and Palestinian fighters to meet secretly in 2005-6. And maybe just to highlight something that gives hope, because there are a lot of people like skeptical about this work, not just the criticism, rather like the drop in the ocean thing. And it's not science to convince people, it's not really numbers. But one thing we do is called we used to call it actually Palestinian Israeli Alternative Memorial Day. This is almost 19 years ago. And the first year we had like 70 people, and second year we have 200 people. Actually, these last years we have like 15,000 people and a quarter to million people online. Like this is a huge for like a little group. Of course, we do it with a different organization, but this really shows the power of transformation and change and people ability of people of changing. I know from people that came to these ceremonies, they say they can't go back to the normal Israeli one-side memorial ceremonies. I heard this from thousands of people. Once you are in this joint space, because one circle dehumanize the other or forget, this is really humanizing all the sides of the story while highlighting the power dynamic and the incubation system and the trauma, everything. We're not bypassing the reality. It's really important to mention this, to be honest and truth with ourselves. And I think for me, like exploring different ways and theory of change and so on, I believe we need different strategies. And of course, I discovered like the medicine just a couple of years ago. I mean, it has been always maybe there in my body, but I'm a very spiritual person. I come from a Muslim family also. I'm like more close to Sufism. So for me, it was natural to connect with medicine people in the land. Yeah, and that really opened doors and the connection to what I do. Like it made everything I'm doing like make sense to me, like in all connected in the eyes of myself, and also like like sometimes we question ourselves, like are we really committed to like the struggle like for our families and our communities and how we see it. So I feel I'm doing something that also my ancestors want me to do. That's my feeling. This came through the medicine. And it's really important for me to feel supported and protected, actually, and blessed from their soul. This language in the normal activist circle is not spoken, it's not there. And I've been missing this, actually. So, and there is a lot of anger, which is important energy. I'm a bridge, usually. I serve as a bridge. Because also I speak Hebrew. Of course, I'm Palestinian, I speak Arabic, I speak Hebrew. I also know different ways. I'm not like I know the East culture and the West culture and so on. I come from a village, I live in a city, so always in a bridge. And in these spaces also, I feel I'm also a bridge to bring the spirituality and to the direct action activism and the other way around. And this is really something I feel devoting a lot of my energy and time for that, and to connect the dots of the struggle, because the struggle have different levels. It's not where I started, it was outside the struggle, like against the system, which I have still. And I really believe a lot in like the freedom within. So this is actually like balancing all of this. I think it really gives me hope, and also having community and having the inner work. And also this community brings the idea. In some normal organization, we are repeating the system, I have to say. In some normal organizations, the hierarchy with the power dynamic within. I feel here there is something really new, that there is the power of the collective, and every one of us does their thing and try to build a culture of cooperation, not a competition culture, and sharing resources, empowering each other. It's a very different thing. And also like calling for what we want and practicing practically with a challenge, a model for what's possible for future. This is a very harsh. I know all the groups, it's almost close to impossible actually to embody what future look like and also to be open to the unknown. Yeah, we can't control the future. Yeah, and I feel grounded here. I feel also like swimming between the reality and the future. Yeah, so my heart, my conscience feel really complete here.
So I'm Noam. I'm an Israeli musician. I also had, when I in my 20s, I had some experience, quite a lot for let's say 4 or 5 years, experience in activist groups. And then I was thinking, I went to different meetings, dialogue sessions, and I didn't like them so much. I felt it's really heady, and people are just repeating what they know, and they're softening maybe the tone, but eventually just repeating the same stories and trying to persuade the other side of our story. You know? So and I felt, okay, no, so this is not really for me. And I went to direct action. So I was going to a lot to harvesting the olives in South Hebron Hills, and also to protest against the separation wall in Abu Dis and different places in the West Bank and in Jerusalem. So I was going like every week. So there was this rush of confrontation with the military a little bit, and we did meet with Palestinians. We had Palestinians in the organization, and of course we would meet mainly people from villages and in the harvest, and gradually, I mean, this thing gradually faded from my life because I didn't feel actually the impact, and also now in retrospect I understand that what was missing, but I didn't understand that then. It was relationships, so it was really missing. The relationships were not created, so we would meet and go do something together, and then each one returns to his own reality, and there's no crossing. You don't cross the lines. Actually, you don't really enter into the reality of the other. And then in this liminal place where you harvest together, there is kind of this very like nice and polite discourse, but actually it's not. We were not visiting like real places, and in the dialogue groups we're not going anywhere. It wasn't even a decision. It was like something happened to me. I just stopped doing this, and I was turning more into it. This was not a conscious thing, but it just happened. I was turning more into working with my own community, etc. So, as a musician, I wrote a lot of songs that were dealing with the political issue directly, and songs about the Nakba, songs about everything, and I had this band, and the idea was to try to bring on these messages of change mainly through kind of surrealism and humor and very good music, and like to kind of stir it, and so it won't be so threatening maybe to the mainstream point of view or ideology, or I don't know, mindset, but then it would like crawl in and change things from within. And my band was very successful in Israeli terms, and our first album was very kind of radical, and the second even more. So it was like disassembling like the narratives, and but also coming with a lot of love actually for the culture and for Hebrew and for our own culture and for our roots, for Yiddish, for klezmer music, so it was not an alienating, because there were other people in the field that were creating political music, but you couldn't really listen to it. So you listen to it, okay, you got the message, thank you. I can read this in a newspaper article, but actually it's not working. Why? Because it doesn't have love. It comes from just for anger, or from like this, or more I would say an outsider perspective. There were a lot of political songs that were written from, and as if the person singing is from the outside. So we would try to speak about everything from the inside, in a way. So this is the idea of the Trojan horse. No, so you come within. But actually, our Trojan horse was the love of the culture, and kind of, and also the deep work with the language. And so I was far from any activism, like direct action or proper activism by the book. And then Lior approached me one day, and he told me, through someone who was singing in the choir, I started this choir in Jerusalem, and he approached me, and he had this idea. There was this idea of, okay, we will do the same thing, but on medicine. Actually, it's interesting that we spoke earlier that we will not mention medicine so much, and actually everyone here mentioned medicine, except from Hanim maybe. So I'm sorry about that, and or maybe not. And medicine speaks through us. So he would say, okay, there is this idea of doing this project where we meet, we do joint work, political work in the West Bank and with medicine. So Lior approached me with this crazy idea of bringing these tools he was speaking about, these powerful tools of change of consciousness into the work. And immediately I said, yes, sure. I mean, this is what I was looking for. How come I didn't think about this? Yeah, and then Corona broke and everything was postponed. And then a few months afterwards, I found myself in the same living room that Rawan mentioned, the same living room, meeting people who this was completely different than anything I remembered from my activist days. Because it was clear from really the first minute that we are talking about something that is much bigger than just the dispute, the dispute is huge, it's affecting a lot of people. It's terrible. It's huge, but this was even bigger. So it was much deeper. It was about like a total change of consciousness. And also many of us had medicine experiences, and this connected us, because in a medicine experience, people return to their vulnerability, their childhood, being children. They kind of lose their identity for a while, for a moment, in these liminal places. They become like, they change, and then they come back and they want to tell about it. It's like Terence McKenna was saying that psychedelic people, they spend 90% of the time telling about psychedelics and only 10% of the time doing psychedelics. So immediately there was this bond with people on this level of, wow, I mean, I've been to this experience, you've been to this experience, and this immediately connects us. And the idea that we're going to drink together, this was it felt so accurate. From there, from the project, the movement into art is actually quite natural, because something that was happening in the ceremonies was so artistic, and the presence of music was so meaningful. This was so meaningful. This was the other medicine, actually, that was present in the room. There were many medicines present in the room, but this was the other medicine. And for me also, it felt like, okay, I can do what I love to do, what I love to do most, which is play music, and use it as a way to, I don't know, imagine, dream a new reality, a new culture that is actually a crazy mixture of our two cultures. And we are cooking this too right now. So it happened in a moment in the ceremonies. And then from there were a lot of relationships that were created, and mainly for me with Marwan. We sat in ceremony together, and then from there we continued playing, very underground, but continued playing together. And this led also to this is like one facet of our group. So yeah, I mean, bringing these medicines. This is what brought me here, more or less trajectory. Thank you.
Is there a song?
Thank you for inviting a song right now. I felt it was the moment. It came to me to share this one as I was listening to Hanin, especially about the constriction of movement and the siege and living in that open air prison. I'm very connected to birds, and there is one song, it's a Palestinian folklore song. It's called Ya Tayr al-Tayr. And usually it's a very joyful song that's sung at weddings and danced to, dabke. So when I sing it, it's very different than the original, because for me, it's a song of longing, and it's also a song of vision, of hope, of holding on to that vision, of the free bird that can travel everywhere on the land, from the river to the sea. And in the song, the bird is visiting different cities and sending peace and sending love and it's very important for me that we hold on to that vision in a grounded way as well. So we've been mentioning we're grounded dreamers, or, you know, the combination between spirituality and action, activism, art and music as a bridge between the reality and what we want to see. Very soon, inshallah. So I would like to share this song also as a sort of prayer. I will share the second verse specifically and dedicate it to Gaza. That sooner rather than later, because it's already very late, that people there are free to move, free to live, free to be in dignity, quality. Inshallah, Ameen, soon, very, very soon. I'm waiting and working for this moment. يا طير الطاير يا رايح الدير تحميك عيوني وتصونك عين الله والله يا مسافر والله 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 شعلاني هالغير فلسطين بلادي حلوة يا ما شاء الله يا طير الطاير يا رايح عالديري تحميك عيوني وتصونك عين الله والله يا مسافر شعلاني هالغيري فلسطين بلادي حلوة يا ما شاء الله ميل عغزة وبوسلي راملها أهلنا شامة ورجعنا جبارة والقدس العاصمة والأقصى عالمها إن شاء الله يا ربي تجمعنا بديارة يا طير الطاير يا رايح عالدير تحميك عيوني وتصونك عين الله والله يا مسافر شعلاني هالغير فلسطين بلاد حلوة يا ما شاء الله مي العصافر حول عطبرية لعكا وحيفا سلم عبحرها لا تنسى النصر هالقلعة العربية بشر بيسان برجعة أهلها يا طير الطاير يا رايح عالدير تحميك عيوني وتصونك عين الله والله يا مسافر شعلاني هالغير فلسطين بلادي حلوة يا ما شاء الله. Yeah, and I just want to extend that prayer out. Gaza is the place bleeding the most right now, so it's important to center it, in my opinion. And also, West Bank is suffering. Lots is happening there as well. and also in the region and also in the world. So to ripple it out from the center of where we see and we feel the most bleeding and out into all of the places in the world where there is suffering, limiting freedom, innocent people dying. And I know you didn't ask a question yet, but I also feel inspired to share that this is also at the core of our work is international solidarity across causes. We are focused on one specific cause in one specific place because that's where our lineages come from and that's where our families live and our story is rooted. And it's also not lost on us that this is not the only issue in the world. And there are many people that need support and solidarity. And in my facilitation work earlier last year, we were working on a program called Moving Towards Liberation with the ecstatic dance community of New York. They initiated it, actually. And so it was quite an international group of facilitators and participants who came from many different causes. And we centered Gaza at the center of that work and started to come up these feelings of almost like feeling left out of the conversation. People from other parts of the world where their communities are in so much pain and they are undergoing death and genocide and a lot of pain, and they don't get that media coverage, specifically in Africa. This was what was coming up in that international group of yes, centering Gaza, yes, all standing in solidarity of what's happening, and also what about us? Where's our visibility in the international eyes? So yeah, I think this is also another way to look at the ripples in that you work on one cause and hopefully, inshallah, it ripples out into other causes and other communities as well. It can be a model for other communities that are steeped in the architecture of separation of okay, look how this group of Palestinians and Israelis are doing it. So instead of passing you the mic back so you can ask us a question, can we ask you how you felt yesterday at our ritual performance and what's been percolating in you since then?
I felt a real experience of home. For me, ritual is home. It's where everything that we can't speak and understand and make sense of, especially in a world that gaslights us constantly, it's a space where all of that can live. And that feels like the most beautiful experience of aliveness, to be in a space that validates the experience that we actually have here as humans, the experience that we actually have when we pay attention to what's happening. I was sharing with you earlier that I've spent time in Jerusalem and in the West Bank, and it's in my heart, and I've met just such beautiful people. For anyone who is living with an open heart, you can't watch what is happening. And of course, there are horrific things happening all over the world, but I have watched videos of Gaza every day for the last year or so, and that changes a person. It's changed the world, and yet the world hasn't changed. And that hurts on a level that I don't think we can even express and comprehend. And to live in a country that's so explicit in the suffering, and to experience it denied so much, and to experience the disparity in the worthiness of a life when every life is so worthy and every life is so precious. And I sometimes think about the difference of fertility journeys in the West, and the thousands and thousands of pounds that are spent in order to bring a baby into the world through medical intervention and IVF, and then I see all these children, and I know that no one can even get to them. And we have this system where if it's war, if a child's classed as a refugee, no one can get to them, and it just doesn't make sense. It hurts on such a deep level in my womb. I can't even explain it. And so to be with you all last night, and to be with my community here in the UK, and so many people were gathered from London. People had traveled as well. There were people from Devon, there were people from Sussex, there were people from Somerset that had driven to come and be there, to be in that collective prayer with you and to hold space for the grief that we feel and the pure joy and love to experience the togetherness of you all and to feel the journey that you've all been on. Of course, the music is just something else. I had an experience at Medicine Festival where I just ended up on my own, kind of called to a space, and Marwan and Rawan were singing, and I was just sat there in tears, just feeling, so deeply moved by
the goddess
music.
Right.
Yeah. And there's something so beautiful about the way that you are sharing the music together and that fluidity. And then last night with the dancing and all of it, and just to be in that space of togetherness, for that to have a space. What I'm hearing in all of you is this, we're at this time where everybody wants to divide us in so many different ways all the time. And so to claim that togetherness is the radical act of this time. So I love what you're doing. And I loved seeing how moved everyone was and how alive everyone felt afterwards. It felt like we had all been in ceremony together as we had. And it felt like there'd been space for something that there isn't normally space for. And it felt like there was space to rewire a narrative that's thrown in our faces, like day after day, and every time we open a newspaper or look into the news or have a casual conversation with somebody that's still stuck in that othering. And I feel like when you feel that in yourselves, like it's real and it's part of you and it can't be undone. So thank you for the work that you're doing.
You describe our work better than us.
Thank you for listening. If you are enjoying this episode, please do get more involved. You can do this by joining our membership, Presence Collective, where we explore deeper how to create beauty in the mess. And you can find details of our experiences such as Reclaim Your Intuition, beautiful leadership mentoring, and our in-person retreats. By joining in and being an active member of this community, you support the making of this show, keeping the episodes full length, free and accessible for all, so we can stay advertising free in a world that is always trying to sell us stuff we don't need. Other ways that you can connect into the ecosystem is by sharing these episodes with those in your life and dropping us a note from time to time. Head to allthatweare.org to get involved. So now we're going to close our circle. We're going to go back in the other direction. The question is, how can we support you and everything that you're offering that is meaningful for you? And whether that's the work of the Ripples Collective, or whether that's in your homelands, or whether that's in our own consciousness, or however that can be. And I guess something else that's come up for me as I've been listening to you all is two other questions, which you're welcome to speak to if something comes around that. And one is about a notion of home and how you understand home. And another is really around this divisiveness. I also come from a culture where Hindus and Muslims have been pitted against each other. And then it's like, it's just there. It's so in everyone's bodies. And I wonder, for you, being raised with that otherness and then the experiences that you've had. I know, Rawan, you've been displaced at least twice. And Haneen, being from Gaza and experiencing what's happening right now. And Solomon, I know you've been in prison, and Lior and Noam, I know that there's experiences that you've had maybe where you've been, expressed that there's a different rating of human. And so I'm interested if there's anything you want to share of how you've overcome that in yourself by offering for everyone listening of if there's a little bit of that still alive in them, how they can shift that in themselves.
I'm not sure if this answers your question. Maybe something that I caught from it and that is alive. After the 7th of October happened, something happened in the society around me in Israel. It felt like a lot of people who were before that were in a place of wanting to work and even fight for a better, more just future for everyone, and pro-peace, wanting to recognize Palestinians and their rights, and etc. Different. Okay, there's it's a huge spectrum now of positions, but I would say a lot of people who were, let's say, even active towards peace, reconciliation, the ending of the occupation, the ending of the siege on Gaza, and the events of that day created a backlash or some kind of fallback into something that felt biblical kind of rage. And a lot of people just gave up, or were expressing that they gave up on hope, let's say, to say it in a condensed way. Of course, it's much more complicated than that, and everyone with his journey. But there was this general feeling, and of course the ideology that the predominant ideology, the ideology of force and the ideology of war was actually I felt like rode this wave. So there was this wave of trauma released, very, very, very strong trauma, Holocaust trauma released. And then this was really used, I feel, by the government. But on a personal level, I felt a lot of people who actually weren't in that position before. They just say, okay, we give up. I mean, I heard that so many times, and I had so many arguments with people. At a certain point, I was asking myself, do I feel like this? And I looked inside and I said, and I knew that I don't, that it's not me. I'm not there. And of course, I was shocked. I'm talking about the week, 2 weeks after. I was shocked by that, and it was scary. Everything was really very graphic. There was a lot of videos and a lot of horror stories, and everything was so alive. It was really hard. And in the coming months and the invasion into Gaza and everything that was happening there, I was seeing how people just gave up on the dream, gave up on hope, gave up on resisting actually the what was happening. But yeah, this was really challenging, and it is still really, really challenging to live in this society, because it feels like there's a lot of powers who work towards this misinformation, and people really don't know what's happening, and they don't want to know, and they don't know, and they can easily don't know also. But a lot of people are really, I mean, it shifted, but I feel maybe, hopefully, there is a change in the wind now. And maybe just because I'm close to Suli, his optimism is like, I'm like breathing the optimism in, and and it affects me, and I become also optimistic. But I don't know what's on the big scale. But I know that in our group, for example, there is this understanding regarding the solidarity and the sacredness of life that is something that is undisputable. And that is something that is in the kind of center, like this candle in the center, that's what's in the center. And from that perspective, it's actually quite easy. It's not that difficult to really acknowledge, not feel threatened by words like genocide that are really and also really scary for Israelis. Israelis, when they hear this word, they are scared, and they are filled with a lot of really dark emotions, It brings back the Holocaust. It's like a very, very hard word to hear for Israelis. And I understand that completely. I understand the feeling. But I feel that when you do joint work with, as you said, with the balance of the inner and the inner work and the work in the world, everyone with his own capacity, yeah. Actually, it's not that hard. I mean, you first of all bring yourself to a situation where you are together with the other, whatever that is, other, no? So something that is referred to as other, and you bring yourself first of all just to be together, and from there, if you do some inner work together, not so much, but if you do just simple inner work, I think it's not that difficult to really come closer, and then hopefully to work together for shared causes. And then for sure you start from the things that are most urgent, and for sure Gaza is the most urgent. So I must say that I've been in this process for a couple of years, maybe more, and in my 20s now. But what we're doing together now is the next kind of next level, because we're really, really, really getting closer, and actually it's like it's a matter of days. You can solve this in days. It's not that hard. I mean, internally, for sure, the reality is hard. Yeah. To bring change to reality. I just finished after the ceremony. It was really interesting for me and important for me to spot the Israelis in the audience, mm-hmm. and to speak with them and to see how they think, how they feel. It was interesting. Okay, but there was this one guy who said, I asked him how was his experience, and he said that he enjoyed it, and he felt it was heartwarming, etc. But then he said, but how do we bring change? What do we do? How do we change society? What do we do? You tell me, you are the artist, you have to bring change, you have to solve this. And I told him, I don't know. Yes, but he said, but no, but you see, society is not changing. How do we do it? I told him, I don't, listen, I'm not sure right now, but I felt this kind of really, actually it was a kind of a panic attack when he spoke with me, because he felt that he saw something that is, maybe it has this kind of energy of change, but he wasn't sure if this can really bring change. And then he wanted me to give to give him an answer, like a recipe for how do we do this. But maybe my answer would be to him now that, thoughts have settled, that if he lives here, for example, in the UK, or just to sit together with people from the other community, whatever that is, Palestinians living here, and just to find the ones that are willing to sit together and do some internal work, and then maybe create something that is, as Suli said, has this balance of helping to do what we can for the places where the help is most needed, first of all, and then bringing shift of consciousness and seeing that it's possible, that it's not only a war, kind of the war mentality is not the only possible mentality. And actually it's essentially, I don't think people want this. They don't want this in their hearts. They are just fed by these ideas, and it's tragic, really, really tragic. But we're optimists. I was gonna say it. and we heal each other. Try to.
I want to say that for me, I can articulate and dream. I feel like I'm a dreamer of sorts, and I can reveal dreams to others in a way. But I think that if I was just by myself, I would be this kind of mad prophet, that's not really grounded in reality. And it's by the mutual work that we do together that it's kind of like when suddenly Hanin is like coming with raw emotion instead of like and the feelings and the really grounding it in the pain, that it's like, oh wow, you know, and it constantly confronts me from not going too high to just the dream space, and then this always bring the pain and the immediacy of things that need to change now. It's an honor to work with you and to work with these emotions with you and to be next to you in this. And it's really, really, really an honor. And it's always like a reminder that's like there, you know? And if I wasn't with you and we didn't have those relationships, it was like, there would be no reminders. It would be like peace dreamers, but never really grounding in the here and now, and never really managing to like really kind of curve a path together. That is always, when we're trying to liberate ourselves, it's liberating ourselves from the here and now. It's not just like where we want to get to, it's like the path that we carve together. And to carve that path, we carve it on the ground right now with the pain we have together. And it's just an honor to be with you.
This is actually what I really like about this group, is really bringing ourselves and our truth in all times, as much as possible. The vulnerability, the feelings, the wholeness of the everything. Yeah, and also, you know, not to oppress part of ourselves. And this is the liberation we're talking about, actually, in a way, including very harsh like feelings and the suffering and the pain right now. So talking about like the theory of change, to say, and the transformation. As I think we said before, I believe like an American president, I forget which one was that said, if I born where they born, if I taught what they taught, I will do the same. Knowing this is really helping us to navigate how do we deal with different narratives that are against or different than the narrative we grew up with. I think in all our cultures, somehow there is also, you know, this black and white and zero-sum game and us and them, the good guys, the bad guys, always in Hollywood movies. And more a bit in the Western culture, I would say, this idea. Because we come from a different colors, right? Life is much more colorful than this. Yeah, it's really important to remind ourselves that humanizing all the groups are like the different tribes are really important without agreeing with the system. But we are all able to be anything. There's no group on the earth that's born violent group, and group of people born as like a non-violent. It doesn't exist. This is not how things work. Yeah, I personally had a long journey of changing a transformation. It's not like one. Noam spoke about it's possible and it's shorter than, I do believe it's possible, but also I believe in a stable, long journeys. So it's not really, because there will be a lot of winds. It's like a train, a long ride. And we are here for the long stay, long ride. It's not for a short, there is no shortcut. Fortunately, unfortunately. Yes, like should be grounded like the olive trees in the land, and has branches, and it's gonna go for generations. So we are dealing with like a human violence, and that navigate violence and a lot of trauma, generational trauma. And if we specifically speak about our specific like cause, I personally was affected. It's really interesting at this point. I'm reading this Ali ibn Abi Talib here, and actually my first thing that really helped me to start thinking differently was like an Islamic scholar, Ali ibn Abi Talib, which is the cousin of Muhammad, and he has lots of books actually. Ali ibn Abi Talib is famous, wise, wrote a lot of wisdom, and the first one was really in Arabic. I'm trying to translate it to English. Do 1,000 steps to turn your enemy into a friend, and don't do one step to turn your friend into an enemy. This kind of teaching, that's how I grew up actually. I was in jail actually, I read them, but I know it from the school even. This kind of teaching, there is some teaching about also patience and non-violence in this culture. And obviously, reading, others spoke. I'm not a religious person, but, Jesus, when I first time read, I was 15, I was in jail. Love your enemy. This was a very harsh, it's a very challenging, triggering statement. So I have to say, love your enemy and show empathy to your enemy in a, in a privileged place, to say, if you are in an academic world, it might be a bit easier in theory. In reality, that's really the real test. Once this person or system has harmed you or your people, that's really the forgiveness, and these beautiful ideas can be tested. And this is actually also a teaching from Jesus and others. We read, there is no point of forgiving your relatives and your lover. People you love is easy. The thing is about forgiving the one that harms you. So for me, I had gone through nights of no sleep and days and thinking, it's not intellectual thing, it's also the heart. How can I forgive the one who is harming me right now when I was in jail, and my family and my community? And just one example, I watched the Schindler List movie about the Holocaust. And definitely I felt really a lot of pain in me when watching this movie. And not just me, actually, the 10 people were in my room in jail. They were all hardcore fighters before. And they were all crying. And but with the complex, we carry complexes. In the moment we turn the light on, the movie ending, everybody was crying. We have to ask the Israeli police to bring us hot water to make tea, because that's how it works. We have one time to get hot water at night for hot tea. We can't make it in the house, in the room. There is this complexes. So I believe life is, this complex. So let me say here, one, honesty. To be honest, truthfully, the easiest thing is to stay in one narrative, in your own narrative, and not to trigger this narrative. Honesty, that's much easier. Change is not easy also. For me, change is beautiful. I love changes. I'm a curious person, but I honestly know that, nonviolence communication, we study about this, to meet people where they are, but also we have to, this is also from the teaching of nonviolence resistance, culture. We have to show a model of what's possible. That's maybe one part of our mission, actually. And the other thing, we have to resist non-violently the system of oppression from the roots. Otherwise, we'll continue struggle with the micro stories, where the accusation system, for example, in our case, for example, but it can be anywhere else, there are millions smaller issues every other day. So many here, there, no. And you are living on the emergency and the survival need. I think between the survival needs, which is very important and people need, there are some people that can really rise to the dream, but also being in reality and grounded. And this is all the time will be challenged. You don't change one time and you become the light. And this, I don't really believe in this. I believe this is an ongoing work. That's why it's important to do the inner work all the time, and to recognize what is there as truth, as reality, and to go through this journey knowing this is gonna be long and painful also. That's how for me it works, and it helps me also to stay in the culture of sumud, what we say, steadfastness. So honesty, the wind can come, crimes happening every day and you will be triggered every other day. Yeah, it's very important that some of us can see beyond the now and also balance the now and the need of now. A few other day, last month, I was participating in the anniversary of Gandhi birthday, 155 years. So we still live with his legacy, and Mandela and Rosa Parks work in the US, and so many other women and men and others that stood against the system and showed us example of strength. And nonviolence doesn't mean you will be safe, rather you might be crushed by the system. And finally, for the supporting this kind of work, we live in this world of division. I think it's really important that these stories come to the mainstream consciousness, actually, so people can find alternative to what exists. The first thing I would love to ask that people, if they feel the call in their heart, as we spoke yesterday, one is really to pressure their governments to stop the war right now in Gaza as an immediate need, to stop the settler violence in West Bank. We want to see the Israeli hostages back to their families. We want to see 10,000 Palestinian prisoners back to their families. We don't want to see any more suffering from all sides. Young people here can choose to be part of this solution for now and to search for a deep solution for a long-lasting peace, not to repeat the status quo again and again. And I would love to see more like a legitimacy of the non-violence movements in the land, actually, that has legitimate voices to legitimize the non-violence struggle as alternative to, not just alternative to violence, as a healing path for all the people. Yeah, and I mean, there are many tools to do this with money, with media, with a lot of other means that people can put, yeah. And we, as I said, like, recognize this is very dark moments at this point where we are right now. And I think the hopelessness I personally feel always is not really one. I'm personally lucky to be optimistic. That's how my DNA works. And that's how I survive jail and other, it's a strategy also to stay in the path. And I think hopelessness is not a strategy for any social movement, to change. No one will join any pessimistic movement anyway. So I'm gonna, like, obviously, I prefer to invest my lifetime, energy, resources in something hopeful, yeah, that can take with others together, like, into a different place from where we are right now. Yeah, thank you.
So I'll answer the question about home and the question about support. And with home, there are lots of homes, a lot of places in which I feel home and belong. Israel is one of them. I can feel like relatively, I love my Israeliness that's in me. Like there's a culture there that I really love. But it got fractured in October 7th and what followed. And October 7th, in the moment of the event, I felt both the pain of what happened and the atrocities that just happened, plus the what is about to come, right? There was like an obvious in the moment what is about to come. And from there, something in my feeling of home in relation to Israel that weekend in the last year. And I can say that I'm already 11 years in London, and every visit to Israel, I always enjoy it and I always feel belong there, and I always feel proud of, even with all the history and everything that's happening, there's a part of me that still is a proud Israeli. After October 7th, every visit something is weakened, and I feel almost a small feeling of alienation in home, as if I don't belong there anymore. And there's something so vicious, I feel, that was released in society, that it's disorienting when I visit the land. And maybe after a lot of work also with Palestinians and getting closer to Palestinians and feeling a lot of empathy to the pain, there's something there that it doesn't feel belong in the same way. But then it's feeling very much belonging when I'm in this group of people, when I'm in this group of Israelis and Palestinians, part of an ecosystem of peace seekers that we are part of. And there I feel very settled and very grounded and very, very belong. And I also feel home, right now it might be a cliche, but it's almost like this, Suli spoke about movement, an idea of movement. And I feel that right now home is in a path. As we are not just Israelis and Palestinians that are just meeting and hanging together, we choose to walk a path together. And there's when you walk the path, when we're in a movement, And then suddenly my sense of belonging is like settled, because we're in a movement, there's a direction, and we walk it together, and then I feel belong. But the belonging is also is a path, because it's a moving belonging. It always needs to be in the movement. It's not like a very rooted type of home. We're doing something together, and then I feel I can breathe, and I feel like that's my place right now, to choose the path. So that's about home. I'd like also to mention Ayelet Ikutiel, who is the seventh member of us that was in the performance also yesterday, and she had to fly back to Israel this morning. Just to mention, just to bring her here, because she's not here in the room, but just to mention her, and also her home that's in the north of Israel that suffered from in the border with Lebanon, and living under constant threat over there for the last year, and in the recent ceasefire that inshallah would bring quiet to her home, at least a sense of peace for her. And inshallah would continue, and we'll see more of that happening all over the region. Regarding support that we're looking for, so we are right now, this is the second time we performed this ritual together. And the first time as medicine was kind of like, okay, this is happening. We're like first time happening. And now it felt like the real attempt to make it a real thing with a long trajectory. And we're, after last night, I think we feel very confident that we're on creating something quite powerful. And we would like to take it on a tour. We would like to do more performances. We would like to find a producer that will take it on a tour. We would love to meet for more time to continue on developing and perfecting it and creating like a very deep process for many people, and then take it on from place to place and activate certain energies and bring people together and bring connection, but also bring a sense of a mission, kind of people wanting to change life around them after they're feeling this process together. And for support for that, we need right now financial support, but we also need different allies wherever that can be in help supporting this creation. It's really like an emergent, like I emphasize, it's an emergent thing right now, and any support for emerging it with us would be great.
So multiple people in the group have been saying, new path, new way, new culture. And as I've been hearing the word new, I also just want to say, for me, it's about remembering something old also. This situation we're in, though it's been already now 78 years, and actually the whole culture of like colonization and the modern nations that are drawn, the borders that are drawn by Western powers, this is new. Especially in Spain, on the second night of ceremony, I had a very visceral experience of us walking a path very long ago. And it was in the desert. And I even said to the person next to me, tie the camel. And I was telling the group, it's time to take a break. We can drink some water now. It's been a long road. We've been walking so long. So there's a memory also that I believe for me is in my DNA. Because when I was very young, 12, I remember, 11 or 12, I had a knowing that was negating the othering that was in my narrative. And I was talking to my mom about this in the call that I mentioned yesterday in the ritual. Everything is connected. And I said to her, Mom, where did this come from? Did you ever talk to me about it? About this knowing that I had? So basically it showed up in a conversation on the dinner table in Canada, because at that point we had immigrated to Canada. It was the dinner table. I'm in a home, a Palestinian family, Muslim background. So this was not taught to me, but I was so clearly convinced of it. There was a political debate between me and my brother, basically. And in this debate, I was saying there's a difference between Jewish people and Zionism. There's a difference between the people and the government. There's a difference here, there's a difference there. I was aware of nuances and of a humanity underneath all of the political jargon and all of the political strategy. And I think I remember this. I also lost it somewhere along the way because the stories became more solid, and also I am very passionate about justice, and I want justice for Palestine, for Palestinian people. Until now, of course, this is unwavering. And also I think that at some point when I was studying the books and in the university and and then journalism and the media, I forgot what I already knew, what I already came into this world remembering. And really, actually, just now, while we were talking, I linked this 12-year-old with the vision in Spain just now. Yeah, there is the creation of something new, and it's almost like carving, yes, but almost like, an archaeologist that goes and like uncovers a path. Oh my God. Sorry. When I was 12, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I was fascinated by ancient Egypt and like, those movies where they go in and they're like, they have the little brush, and they're like brushing off the ruins. So yeah, I want to bring that creating something new and quote unquote alternative and quote unquote edgy, and also remembering something older than the stories we have access to right now. Even this alchemy that happens with the merging of the Arabic and the Hebrew, we were talking about this yesterday, Noam. Mm-hmm. I was like, what is the origin language before those two in our region? I believe you said it's Aramaic. Yeah. And so there's a root language that these other two branch languages came out of, or child languages came out of. The other thing I wanted to say, just to give it a moment of space, was that this love, like this, I heard people talking about like, I love my identity, or I love being Israeli, I love being Palestinian also. And I want us to bring that love in and continue loving who we are. It's not about sacrificing who I am to make space for the other, but rather that remembering that there's space for all of that. To like shift from the scarcity mentality of only one of us can exist, or only one of these loves can exist. Just no, really, but just to an abundance mindset, because the planet is abundant. And if we were able to really respect also our environment and the nature, and to take what we need and to share and to come out of, there's too many systems of oppression. We're talking about like, the system of occupation and the oppression in there, but there's also larger systems of oppression, the separation of human and nature, the separation of spirit and science, the separation, we can talk about many different layers of separation that are oppressing us all. To come back and remember that we have everything we need here, and there's enough, and then some, because the home, here we go, the home is this planet. And this home is abundant and generous. And this planet vibrates on those frequencies, on generosity, on harmony. I'm thinking back to a talk I heard the other day by another amazing activist. Her name's Alexa Garcia, and she was talking about the oak tree and how when a hurricane comes, it's the oak tree that survived because the oak tree grows its roots wide and connects with other oak trees. So even just the thought that it's survival of the fittest is inaccurate. It's the survival of the interconnected. And this is what we're doing here. We're interconnecting in this like mycelial network also. And here there's a pod. We're connected to many other pods, and it's a much larger community than the 6 or 7 of us. So yeah, to remember, I want to bring that. To remember and to allow all of the love for all the different ways we can be and show up and express ourselves.
What actually inspired me from what Rowan was sharing, that the planet Earth have plenty. And there's so much for everyone. This idea of finding home wherever you can be. I'm based now in south of Portugal. it's my new home for now. This idea of grounding, tending to the earth, tending to nature around, connecting to the community, to the local community, of grounding where you are and where you can be and bringing what you can of yourself, and to remember to come back again also to also these parts that you could not tend to before in yourself and in the land. It's a journey. When we make the plants, we don't just put them into the earth, we prepare the soil. We plant, then we can't just forget about them and think that they will grow by themselves. We need to nurture and take care. And I come back with that, of the nurturing and the taking care of bringing my two children, Hannah and Zuhair. As one time they were having a discussion with me about Israel and Jews and Israelis. They have two friends, Shaya and Matya. They live in the region where we live. And ever since the genocide, the war has been escalating, and now we see the genocide that is happening and unfolding. Hanan have been not able to be friends with her friend Shaya. She tells me all Israelis, they seem to want to kill the Palestinians more. What's the difference? How can I see this person different than the other? And then I explained to her by how they show up, by how they are speaking, by how they are relating, by how they are. You need to meet the human as the human that you meet in that moment. Until they show you something that is harmful, then yes, you start to take care, be careful. But put aside all these identities aside and focus only on the humanity. I mean, she didn't think of her friend Shaya as wanting to kill, but it's the idea of Israelis, the army wanting, in a way, is doing that in Gaza to her own family and relatives. And it was such a journey to implement that, to humanize, and to also explain that not all Israelis are Jews and not all Jews are Israelis. And even if you meet an Israeli, meet them where they're at. Meet the humanity in the people. And ever since she came back to play with her friend Shaya, and Zohir always played with Matia, he doesn't care, he plays football. It's like that's the only thing that matters for him. He doesn't care like a lot. But for Hanan, it was really a process to understand the difference. Of course, legitimizing her rage, legitimizing everything that she's going through. But at the same time, she is starting to understand and having her journey of differentiating. And I'm really proud of her. And I feel what you're doing also with the children is also the seeds as well. The seeds, because what we are doing is in a way, well, I come back to another inspiring point that Rowan said, it's like an ancient path that was paved by our ancestors and then continues to pave through us, and then it will continue to pave through our children and grandchildren once we understand how to tend and take care and nurture and create that environment, how to find that balance. And I learned that actually in one of the medicine ceremonies, was with the shaman called Chachavari. I was having a difficult process. I was hearing airplanes in the sky, and it brought me back to memories of Gaza, of bombs falling and me closing my ears, like trying to not hear it. And at some point it was too strong. It was too strong. I was hiding even all around us. It's smoky, but it was, in that moment, I thought I was dying. I think I nearly died, but I lived because life wanted me to be in service for something. I did nearly die. I think I did. Half of me died and half of me stayed in a way. I don't know what happened there. But I was in between these two realms. And I was having this difficult process. I couldn't breathe. I was telling Chechavri, it's happening again, it's happening. The war is happening. And then he looked at me in the eyes and he took a moment to breathe with me, to breathe in and out, and to remind me that I'm on a journey, that I'm on this journey that is not linear, and I have to be gentle, and I have to be calm, and I have to be understanding that it will not all unwind at once. It will take time, and it will take steps, and it will be a longer thing, a longer happening. And then he reminded me of the breath of life. And then he made that connection of the breath of life and the solidarity between the indigenous community. He was like, my community are in solidarity with your community. I seen your grandmother. And he reminded me of the power of the ancestors that are guiding continuously. And as a direct action, like everyone, like Rowan and Suri said, any form or way to pressure the governments of ending this madness is really, really important, because we need now the movement. The happening is now, while we can still save what is left of the place and the people inside it, including my family, and to bring back light, into Gaza. And I really always imagine, I come from Gaza Center, and on the municipality building, there was this rising phoenix, like sculpture. And I always, like when I go into sending my prayers, my meditation there to Gaza, I always see it as like the rising phoenix that went through so many wars and so many different eras of its life, but it always rised again. And Gaza is like a baby, part of the whole land. The land will find its way to connect to it and through it again, and to support our collective ripples, to keep rippling, either in allies or financial support. And I actually feel inspired to offer a song. يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور استخدم صوتك وكلماتك غني للسماء غني للنجوم حس بالحكمة في قلبك غني للسماء غني للنجوم حس بالحكمة في قلبك وفي روحك يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور يا عصفور استخدم صوتك وكلماتك غني للسماء غني للنجوم حس بالحكمة اللي في قلبك وفي روحك غني للسماء غني للنجوم حس بالحكمة اللي في قلبك وفي روحك
I want to thank each one of you for the generosity and beauty that you have showed up and shared in this ritual. I'm sure for all of those of you listening to this, like us, you have been moved to tears and expanded into joy, and you have felt rage and wild optimism and everything as we have moved through. And I really hope that this conversation, this ritual, these songs have opened something and changed something and created that ripple in you that can then ripple out. And so thank you to each one of you, to Hanin, to Rawan, to Lior, to Marwan, to Solomon, and to Noam. Thank you for sharing. And I just want to invite everyone listening to go to ripplescollective.com, and you will find information there and a link to the Just Giving. And you can, share your resources for this beautiful work and make your invitations, host them, invite them to places, find ways to ripple this work out further. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. אנקו קטן שמח, בין עלים צומח, פרח מלבלב. מתבונן לו חש חש, איך תטוש כחץ לארץ, פה קרוב ללב. אדום חזה פורח, בין עלים צומח, פרח מלבלב. מתמוגן קולו לשמה, קינותיך דמה דמה, פה קרוב ללב.
Thank you for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed this episode and it has sparked some inspiration and creativity in you. As always, you can find links to everything we mention in this episode, download our book, join our experiences, and discover so much more over on allthatweare.org. We give space to our guests to share their perspective without debating it or fact-checking, as this approach allows for deep, unedited conversations from the heart. We trust your discernment and wisdom to take what is useful and challenge what isn't in your own understanding. We offer spaces for discussion and integration in our membership community, which we would love for you to join. We don't believe in selling you things you don't need through this podcast. And so it's made possible with you, our beautiful community. If you loved this and would like to connect more deeply with us, please join our membership, retreats, and experiences. Share the episode with your friends and do drop us a note from time to time. Please hit subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen so that others can find us. This podcast is made by an all-female global team. All That We Are celebrates all that we are already. and the untapped potential that lives inside us. It invites the full power of the more than human world, nature, the unseen, our ancestors, and our future generations. It reminds us that we never exist in silos through borders, timelines, or polarity. That in each and every moment, all that we are is here.